Hi. This is Colin from GradeAComputerScience.com, and I'm going to introduce SQL to you. So you want to watch this? If you're a computer scientist, you want to know a little bit about structured query language and how it works, this is the place to be. Alright, so let's see what it is. Structured query language, SQL, and that's what it stands for, structured query language. It allows you to access and manipulate databases. So if you've got a load of data that you want to get access to, you want to change it, you want to keep it up to date, SQL is a great way of doing that. It is an American standard, so it's not a made up little language. It's something that you can use as a standard, and it is used all over the world by computer scientists and by various database management systems. SQL keywords are not case sensitive, but they tend to be used using uppercase letters. So it's not case sensitive at all. So that makes it easier to write. Okay, let's carry on. Now, got a sample database here I want to create, and you'll see this database. It's got the titles at the top here. So these are your fields: ID, title, genre, duration of the program, and the channel. And what we're going to do now, just making sure here you'll see Dick and Dom is comedy, Match Day sport, Wild Brazil is nature, and all the different channels that pertain to each of the programs. So we want to create this database with a table called BBCPrograms. Create the database using SQL. All right. Now, the first thing we do is we create a table. We create the table, and the tables, obviously you saw that they're organized into rows and columns, and each table must have a name. So we're going to use the name called BBCPrograms. How do we do that? Here's the syntax. So we type in create table and the table name, and then we type in the column name and the data type. So in this case, let's say ID, and the data type will be int. So it'll be an integer, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, 1, 0, 2. And the size, I think it's just because it's integer, we don't need the size, but just have ID will be 0, 1, and that'll be an integer. Okay? So in this case, we've got create table, BBCPrograms, that's the name of the program, name of the table, ID, int, title, which is a varchar, which is the character string, and we'll have 20 of those for the title. We've got genre, which is 10 characters, duration, which is an integer, so that'll be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then the channel name, BBC 1, BBC 2, BBC 3, that'll be a varchar of 5 characters. Alright, so we should be able to create our table. So let's create a table. I'm going to create the table using W3 Schools. Let's have a look here. I'll show you how that's done. Right, let's go to SQL. You see here W3 Schools, and on W3 Schools they have a SQL tutorial, and here's an online editor which you can use to edit your SQL statements and try things out. So let's click on that. Okay, I'm going to create a table. So here's the statement that I'm going to use. Create the table here. I'm just going to cut and paste that, copy, and put that into paste. Okay, and then I'm going to run it. Okay, so that's the command. We're going to run it. Okay, so now I've run the command, giving us BBCPrograms with no records. So we want to put new records in there. Let's see how we do that. Okay, so let's go to, okay, so to add data, which is what we want to do, we want to add data to our table. We're going to use the SQL insert into statement. Insert into. So this is used to create new records. So, the insert into is possible to write the insert into statement in 2 forms. The first form is where you don't use the column names. The second form is where you use the column names. So you've got the column names here and the values of those columns. Okay, so let's get to a good example. Here's a good example. So in this one here, we're going to specify the column names and the values of the columns. So insert into BBCPrograms. So we're going to insert it into our table, and the title names or the column names are ID, title, genre, duration, and channel, and the values will be 01, EastEnders, Drama, 30, and BBC One. So that's one way of doing it. So we can then make sure that the right columns get the right values. Let's try that out. Here we go. So we're going to go back to our insert into, let's just get this here and just click and copy, and then we're going to and paste. Okay, and then we're going to run it. Run, and hey presto, there you go. BBCPrograms contains one record. Okay, if we click on BBCPrograms, we can see the one record there. Okay, let's do another one. So we just cut that. These are commands, of course, that I've created earlier. Copy, and we're going to paste. So you'll have to actually type them up yourself, really. Okay, so we got our second record, Dragon's Den. Let's run that, and there it is. We've got two records now. We click on BBCPrograms. We see we've got the two records in the database. Alright, that's clever, isn't it? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the tape now and stop the video, and I'm going to put the other records into the database. Hello. Okay, so what I've done is to place all the records for the database into the database, and you'll see here now that I've got 7 records. And if I click on BBCPrograms, hey presto, you've got the 7 records here now. Okay, and now there are a few updates that I will need to do. For instance, where it's got match of the day, it's got comedy, so that's not correct. And I know that there are a few others that are incorrect. So we need to update the database so it does show correctly what it should be, so we can make changes to the database. So let's do that. So in order to do that, we need to do the update statement, and that's used to update existing records in a table. So here's a syntax: update table, and we set the column 1 or column to a particular value. So we can change the value of a particular column where the column is equal to some value. Where it's equal to where in the table you know what the value is, and what the column name is, and what the value actually is. Best way is for me to show an example of that. So let's have a look here. So for instance, we want to update BBCPrograms, that's the table, and we want to set the genre to sport. So if you remember, the match of the day was comedy. So we want to set the genre to sport, where the ID is 6, and the ID is 6 for match of the day. Okay, so that's what we want to do. We want to change that now to reflect. So let's update for real. Okay. Okay, so here's our database, and we want to update the database. So in order to do that, let's get the relevant so here we are, update the database. So what we need to do is to take this and copy, and we're going to run that command here, paste. Okay, so we update the BBCPrograms where the genre is going to be sport. We want to change the genre to sport where the ID is 6. Let's run the SQL command. Okay. And now let's see if it's changed it. So we'll type BBCPrograms. Okay, and it should have changed it. Match of the day. There you go. So match of the day is now sport, which is correct. So we've updated our database. Now there are a few other database updates that need to be made. So let's have a look here. Now update BBCPrograms is another one. Let's get this one and then we'll copy. Okay, we're going to paste. Okay, so we're going to update the BBCPrograms and set the channel to BBC4 where the ID is 5. Now where the ID is 5, there we go. So at the moment it's ITV2, there the ID is 5, Wild Brazil, Nature. At the moment it's ITV2. That's not correct. It should be BBC4. So we're going to update that now. We're going to run the SQL statement. Okay, and now we're going to click on there to see ID 5. There it is. It's now gone to BBC4. So we've updated the channel number correctly. Have we got another one? Let's try another one here. No, I thought we had another one. Okay, that's fine. So that's how to update the database. Next, what we want to do is to extract data from the database. Let's see how we do that. Right, so what we want to do now is to extract data from the database. We want to find a particular, or do what we call a query on the database to find out a particular piece of information. The select statement is used to select data from a database, and the result is stored in a results table. So let's see how that happens. So for instance, we select the column name that we want from a particular table name, and we can select any data from the that table name. So we can select the column names that we want from that table name and any information that's from that table name. So let's see how that actually works. So here's an example. We want to select the title from BBCPrograms. So that's going to give us a list of all the titles within the BBCPrograms. Okay, so let's do the extraction for real. Okay, so I've now placed the query into the editor, select title from BBCPrograms. So what I should be getting is a list of all the titles within the BBCPrograms table. So let's run the SQL statement. Okay, and there we go. So we now have a list of all the titles within the SQL, within the table. Okay, that is it. Those are just some, I think I've got 4 there, just some of the SQL statements that you can use within SQL. And really it's a case of you trying all the titles out and doing various exercises. I hope that you find that's useful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. All the best. This is Colin Baptiste from Grade A Computer Science. Please like, share, let people know about the site. I'm trying to help people who love computer science. Thank you.